What's up? That's So Rich fam. Welcome back to another podcast episode. Today is my 29th birthday, and in honor of entering into my final year of my 20s, how the hell did I get here? I wanted to share just a few of the thoughts and the things that I'm taking into my 29th year that have really helped me throughout my 20s and have helped me get to the place that I am today, feeling the coolest, weirdest, hottest, and richest that I ever have in my entire life. So without a further ado, let's get into it.
What's up, and welcome to the That's So Rich podcast, the show that's redefining wealth and helping you manifest a life that is rich in every single way. I'm your host, Kat Kozad, transformation coach, manifestation expert, and spiritual guide. And together, we're going to create your happiest, healthiest, and wealthiest life. I'm so happy you're here. Let's do this thing.
Y'all, I genuinely am like, oh my gosh, this is crazy that I'm 29. And I know that age is just a number. It's not like a bad crazy. It's more so just it's crazy to think about the fact that growing up, thinking about 29-year-olds, I was like, oh, they're old. Like, oh, they're supposed to have it all figured out by the time that they're 29. Because I had just this vision growing up, kind of based off of, I guess, what my town growing up handed to me, of the fact that the way life was going to go was that I was going to graduate high school, go to college, meet a nice guy, get married, buy a house, have babies, all by the age of 25. And not a single one of those things has happened, my darlings. I dropped out of college. I haven't met a nice guy so far. I have not bought a house. I pay an extraordinary amount of rent for a small ass apartment in New York City. I definitely have a career, so we got that going for me, but no babies in my near future, as far as I'm aware of. If God has another plan for me, then sure. But it's just so funny because looking back to where I thought I would be at age 24, 25, now being 29, I'm like, wow, it's just so different than anything that I could have ever imagined. And it's been better than I could have ever imagined. Where I am today as a 29-year-old, I am so happy with, I am so fulfilled with, I am so grateful for, because where I am today, I feel as though I truly feel more powerful, more empowered than I ever have. I feel more grounded than I ever had. I feel more connected to myself and to God than I ever have. I feel the hottest that I ever have and more connected to my body. I feel genuinely just like the version of myself that I've become over the past 9 years since turning 20 is a version of myself that I only ever dreamed of becoming. And now that I'm in this position, I'm like, oh, okay. I know that things only get better and better from here. And if y'all have listened to the podcast for any sort of period of time, you'll know that I have tattooed on my arm. And if you're watching the video, I'm holding my hand up. You still won't be able to see it because it's kind of in a funky position. But I have a tattoo that is matching with my best friend Helena that says, the better it gets, the better it gets. And I look at it every single day and remind myself of the fact that it just gets to keep getting better. One of the things that I remember so distinctly from like when I was 19 years old, my mom and I were driving around in Denver, Colorado, because I was living there at the time. And I was saying to her, like, okay, I want a dog, a boyfriend, I want to buy a house in Golden, and like I want to settle down and I want to start having kids. And my mom hardly ever chips in a way of like giving me advice. She's always wanted me to make my own decisions and has supported me in every single thing that I've done. And she stopped and she paused and she was silent. And I was like, that's weird. This girl usually can't stop talking. And in that silence, I was like, what is she going to say? And she was like, Kitty, if I could say anything as like words of wisdom and words of advice to you, it's not to make any permanent decisions in your 20s, because you're going to change so much and so many things are going to happen that you don't expect right now, that what you think you want right now, you're not going to want in 10 years. Well, we are now 10 years later and she was right. All of those things that I thought I wanted, it's not that that would have been a bad life by any means. I think it would have been an incredible life, But at age 19, going into my 20th year of life, I thought I had it all figured out. I thought I knew exactly what I wanted. I thought I had the game plan of how I was going to get there. And nothing went according to plan. Nothing went according to plan. And every single time I have had some sort of like grand plan of how my life is supposed to go, it's never gone according to that. And so over these past 9 years of life, it's really taught me to like surrender my plan completely. And that's not to say that there haven't been goals that I've hit or things that I've set out for myself that I've attained and I've reached. That's something that I've actively and continually done year after year after year, especially since finding intentional manifestation. But there's been just this deep trust and surrender in the fact that any plan I could create for myself isn't as great as the one that God has for me. And God continues to surprise me and show up in the most incredible ways year after year. And especially even just in the past, 6 weeks, 5 weeks since the year started, God has shown up in the most incredible ways because my number one intention for this year of 2025 was to completely surrender any plan that I had for myself and just put full faith, full trust into Him. And already in the first 5 weeks, yes, incredible things have happened, but that's been a challenge to be like, okay, I'm going to surrender this control. I am going to live in the moment. I am going to have fun. I am going to trust that it's all unfolding in my favor. But the more and more that I do so, the more and more I'm led to greater things than I could have imagined for myself. And it's so funny, like in this past week or so, I've been doing a ton of reflecting, of course, because of a birthday and it being the last year of my 20s. And in the reflection that I've done, one of the things that stands out to me so clearly is that up into, I'd say honestly, the past 6 months of my life, there's been just such an intense feeling of like, well, I need to have a plan because of all of the shit that you see on social media, because of the fact that I'm a life coach, because of the fact that all of these personal development gurus say that if you don't set these goals or have these plans or XYZ, then you're not going to get what you want. And it's so completely false. But because of that narrative and the way that I adopted it, I feel as though I've taken my 20s way too seriously. And I really didn't allow myself to have the kind of fun that I could have had. And that's not to say that I haven't had fun, but I feel as though my 20s have almost been like this excavation period of like digging the deep shit out that was holding me in unhealthy patterns and like then being in this place of just feeling so serious, almost out of protection of going back to unhealthy patterns. Whereas now I just feel so different. I feel so freaking free. It's hard to explain because, like I talk about here on the podcast and on my social media and in my programs and all of the things, the goal has always been to manifest a life full of freedom. And I've manifested that life full of freedom in my time, my location, my finances, and a lot of these external things. And getting now genuinely to this place of just like complete freedom in mind, body, soul as well, where it's like, Kat, you can do anything. You can be whoever you want to be. You can say whatever you want to say. You can change your mind whenever you want to change your mind. You can try new things out and not have it mean something so crazy or big about yourself. And it feels as though this box that I had been living in for such a long time has been dissolving, crumbling, falling away. And that as I step into this 29th year of life, I finally feel like me. And with that just comes endless potential of what comes next and the abundance that I get to receive as a byproduct of that. And also what y'all get as a byproduct of me feeling like the fullest version of myself. And it's not to say that these past versions of me over the past however many years, especially since I've started documenting my story and my journey and whatnot online, hasn't been me. It's just that was a version of me that was still uncovering. And I think that I will always be uncovering, even as this version of myself that I'm like, oh yeah, this is me. And like, I feel like the most authentic, full, genuine version of myself, that this is still just a teeny itty bitty bit. And one of the things that I think has really become such a clear lesson for me over the past 9 years is that nobody ever has it figured out. Nobody ever has it figured out. Nobody ever fully has their shit together. nobody ever knows all of the answers, and nobody ever is going to fully know their whole self because it's always changing, it's always evolving, it's always being taken to the next level. And that's so exciting to me now versus before there was such an energy of seriousness around, okay, well, I must become that version of myself in order for me to manifest the things that I want into my life and blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, God, boring. Let's just have some fucking fun. And so I guess that's really what I have on today's podcast episode. Like I said, it's going to be short and sweet because your girl's been yapping way too much on this podcast. Like, it is crazy. I will finish recording and go over to my computer and be like, oh yeah, that was probably around like 30 minutes. And then I look at the time and it was like a full hour. And then I edit out some of the shit that was just me rambling. So all of that to say, we're keeping it short and sweet, but going into my 29th year of life, the things that I'm focusing on is truly just having more fun, because when we have fun, the universe works faster, God works faster. God wants you to be happy, wants you to be filled with abundance, filled with joy, filled with love, filled with purpose. And when we take ourselves so goddamn seriously, that stands in the way of that. So more fun for me in my 29th year. No more boxes. No more boxes. Only following, living, expressing my truth in any which way I want to, and not having to look to other people for permission for that or inspiration for that or any of the above. Learning and following this self-sourcing energy of just creation inside of myself, because that is an extension of our creator, and just staying open to all that life, that God, that this journey has to offer to me, because it's been so good so far. And that's been with a lot of hesitation and limitation and putting myself into boxes and labels and all of the different things. And now stepping into my 29th year, I'm like, yeah, let's just say yes and see what can happen. Let's follow what feels good, follow the inspiration, say yes to those things, and see what comes as a byproduct of it. And then one last very important piece of my 29th year that has come so perfectly into place over the past few years are the people in my life and the community that I have. One of the things that I've realized over the past few years, especially the last 2 years, is how much I used to isolate myself out of fear of rejection, and how much I used to value needing my life to look a certain way, or needing a certain amount of money, or needing these material things externally to try and be validated, loved, accepted, so on and so forth. And it really was this isolating feeling. I felt so lonely because I felt like an alien ever since I was a kid. I like felt so different than everybody else. And when I showed that difference, when I showed that weirdness inside of myself, it wasn't accepted. It was like, oh, okay, Kat's the weird fat kid, Kat's the weird kid, Kat's the like kid that hangs out over there. And like there's so much freaking bullying. So I learned to blend in, fit in, try to like do the quote unquote right things in order to be seen and accepted. But like I was talking about with these boxes, it really put me in this box, versus now and over the past few years, I've been surrounded by people that have seen me and loved me exactly as I am. And it's been fucking terrifying to open myself up so vulnerably, so completely to these people. But it's been the most healing thing that I've ever done. And continuing on that path and allowing myself to be more open, to share more vulnerably, to be my weird fucking self, because I honestly just feel like I'm weird Barbie. Like if anybody's watched the Barbie movie, all of the Barbies were like, oh God, we have to go to Weird Barbie's house. And like Weird Barbie has the solution and answer of how to save Barbie world. And like nobody wants to go to her still because she's fucking weird. But then everybody realizes she like is a legend and has all of this wisdom. And just because she's different doesn't mean that she's bad. And allowing people to see my weird Barbiness has been so beautiful, so healing, so good. And I know that there's just more and more of that to come. And so for all of you that have been here, that have listened to the podcast, that has accepted my weird Barbiness and has felt like you can show your weird Barbiness or your weird colors or your uniqueness or just who you are at your core because of the podcast or because of things that I've shared or because of taking these bits of wisdom and implementing them into your life, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for sharing your light with the world. We need it. In a time like what is going on right now in the world, we need more people who feel safe within themselves. And that's what I want more of in my 29th year for myself and for you. And that's exactly what this space will continue to be. So I'm going to stop talking. Otherwise, I'll keep talking forever. But cheers to another year of life. I'm really excited for my 29th year and all that's to come. It's funny looking back on last year's birthday podcast. I was like bullet listing all of the things that make these lessons what it is. And this year I'm like, nope, we're just going to sit on the couch and talk about Weird Barbie. And that's that. Okay, love you guys. If you are wanting some more of the goodness that I'm going to offer you in my 29th year of life, come follow me over on Instagram. You can find the link down below to follow me. It's just at Kat Kozad. And then there's also a brand new Instagram for the podcast. So if you don't already follow the podcast Instagram, definitely go check it out. And let's do this thing. 29. Let's make it a good one, y'all. I'm sending you all of my love, and I will chat with you on the next one.